So welcome back. All of yesterday was prep work for what we're going to walk into today. We're going to pull back a little bit, see the big picture. I just want to talk about three big principles of what it means to run the bases God's way. The first big principle I want to talk about is those who ignore the great big God reality that life is about God and the big picture of that, and they don't surrender to that. The thing I want to talk about is they cheat in life. What happens is they ignore surrendering to God. They ignore the inner heart issues of character. They ignore the reality of what it means to prioritize relationship, and they run right to third base. Why do people want to run right to third base? Because when you don't surrender to God, people think life is about money, success, and the validation of the people around them. Sam introduced this scripture to us. I love this scripture. It says this: don't look for shortcuts to God. The market is flooded with surefire, easygoing formulas for a successful life that can be practiced in your spare time. Don't fall for that stuff, even though crowds of people do. The way to life, to God, is vigorous and requires total attention. If you cheat life, if you look for shortcuts, the problem is you're not going to be able to sustain the pressures of life. So please see this. If you're at home base and we're talking about surrender and you never surrender to God and you ignore the inner issues of character in your heart, you ignore the prioritization of relationships, your spouse, your family, and your friends, you're going to have this temptation to run right to third base. And when you get to third base, you're not going to be able to sustain the pressures that come against you. This is why we see affairs. This is why we see addictions. This is why we see meltdowns. Why? Because we ran right to third base, and the inner heart issues that matter most, running the bases God's way, they're not developed. But we know this. I think it's kind of obvious. We see this. Like, if you don't do your homework, it's going to show up when you take a test. If you cheat in practice, it's going to show up in a game. If you cheat in life, it's going to show up in the way you live life. So the first big principle that I just wanted to throw out to you is this reality that when we don't surrender to God, we kind of cheat on life. The second big principle I want to talk about is God does want you at third base. Results do matter. Money matters. What you do and success and validation. If you're able to make money, go make tons of money. It's fantastic. I've met rich people. They're happy people. It's okay to make money. Scripture talks about money being evil. Money's not evil. The love of money is evil. So if you're able to make money, go make money. If you're considered a success, that's great. I hope you're so good at what you do, people around you tell you and they look at you like a success. I think it's fantastic. The validation of others, it's fantastic. If you're good at what you do and people are grateful for that, that's wonderful. The validation of others is a good thing. However, in all of it, it all comes down to, are you surrendered to God? If you surrender to God and you ran the bases God's way, you realize by the time you get to third base, money, success, and the validation of others, you realize it's to help other people out. Strength is for service. It's behind me on the wall. You realize that everything God is given to you, it's a gift to you to help other people in their journey. If you don't surrender, all of those things are going to be about you. And that's where it becomes a really big problem. Do you see it? Doing life God's way is awesome. Running the third base is great. God does care about the results in your life. But when you don't surrender, life becomes about you. This is why Solomon told us to trust God to do life God's way. This is what he wrote. Trust God from the bottom of your heart. Don't try to figure out everything on your own. Don't assume that you know it all. Honor God with everything you own. Give him the first and the best. Your barns will burst. Your wine vats will brim over. Lastly, real quickly, the last point I want to bring up. Doing life God's way is going to probably be a little harder. And the people around you are not even going to begin to understand why you're living the way you're living. Money, Success and the validation of others is so intoxicating. This is why people who don't surrender to God, they want to run to third base so fast because it's so intoxicating. Isn't this what everyone in culture is pursuing? This is why when you are at home base and you don't surrender, this is why when you run to third base, it feels so good. And I want to explain why. There's sin sometimes in our hearts. And that sin in our hearts, it craves things. It craves things like control. It craves things like power. It craves things like pride and lust. And everything in this world is designed to give you control, give you pride, give you lust. Everything in our world is this wonderful, temporary, feel-good moment. I'm just telling you, third base is so intoxicating, and everything in this world is just inviting you into that. And that's why we find this huge temptation to not to surrender to God and run right to third base and ignore doing life God's way. Again, principle number 3, sometimes doing life God's way seems a little harder, and honestly, people around you aren't even going to understand. Just a couple questions to kind of help us really kind of process this series, because we're kind of wrapping it up with my talk. The first question I have for you is, what do you think about the great God reality, that life is about God, and it's really not about me and what I want? Like, how do you process that? Are you surrendered to that great big God reality? Life, there's twists and turns, and kind of like the reality of what we're living through now, the pandemic. Things happen and you have setbacks, but in general, because you're surrendered, your heart's at peace with it. It's not every day's easy. It's just, in general, there's a grace about you. You're surrendered to it. Or maybe you're not surrendered to it. Are you still struggling? Kind of like trying to jam a square peg in a round hole. This just kind of living life and the frustration of it, like this is what you thought was success. This is what you thought your kid's life should look like, and this is reality. And you just can't put that together. It's just a tension in your life. Are you surrendered to the great big God reality? Second set of questions, are you living with ferocious courage? Are you able to go through life, and even if you face setback after setback, you're able to have ferocious courage because you know you have been spiritually transformed? Or do the blows of your life, have they bullied you? Have they led you to believe that somehow you're failing and the spiritual transformation didn't happen? Or maybe the blows of life have bullied you and you now believe somehow God's holding out on you. Are you still able to have ferocious courage even as you walk through life and face setback after setback? Another set of questions is, how do you view other people? Sam taught last week right out of Matthew that when Jesus saw people, it just broke his heart. He saw their humanness. He saw their confusion. It broke him. How do you view people? How do you view your spouse? How do you view your kids? How do you view your parents? How do you view your boss, your teacher, your coach, your leader? Like, are they objects where you're trying to leverage something from them? Are they roadblocks to what you really want? Or are you able to love them with the purity of your heart? Tomorrow we talk about third base. Results do matter. Money, success, and validation of others, they're good things. And so tomorrow we're going to jump into that.